Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're going to conclude our study of agape in the Old Testament. Those places um, um, judiciously chosen by the translators of the Septuagint when the word agape is used to describe a relationship. We've looked at Abraham and Isaac, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Rachel, Ruth and Naomi, um, and the other relationships in that book, Jonathan and David, Michael and David, and the Song of Solomon, the beloved and the bride in the Song of Solomon, all described that way. And the last time we were together, we looked at the times that God is described as having agape for us, and we mentioned how the word is used sparingly throughout the Old Testament by the translators anyway. And we also talked about the way our understanding of our relationship with God, I'm talking about as a species, as human beings, has evolved from the garden until Jesus comes and makes things plain for us. And so God is described as being merciful and having covenant loyalty and being gracious, much more, exponentially more than he's described as being loving. Although he's described as playing the role of someone who gives loving, tender care as a parent, as a mother, as a father, sometimes as a mother, as a defender. Um, but that word is used, sparingly, and we saw that last time. And by the same token, the word used as an expression of what we feel for God is also used sparingly, although there's a great deal of description of people acting towards God like they love God, especially if we understand that the best way we express our love for God is our obedience, as Jesus says in John 14:15 and 15:14. Um, so we see that. But we do see times when people say to God, I love you. And we're going to look at four of those today. These aren't all of them, but we're going to look at four of them. And most of them come from David, of course. David, and we've said this almost anytime we talk about David, has a New Testament perspective on things. And I just think that he knows more than we understand he knows about what is going to happen after him, about why his throne will last forever. I mean, he's the one who gives us Psalm 22, which is a psalm that he wrote. It really puts us inside the head of Jesus on the cross. I think he knows more than we appreciate about the ultimate nature of God's covenant with us and God's relationship with us. He certainly calls God Father. God is our Father in a way no one else does before Jesus. And he feels that way. Of course, when you're told at 12 years old you have God's heart and you're going to be king, that might change the way you look at the rest of your life. Um, but he does. I mean, he feels that way about God, and that's why when he sins with Bathsheba, his great fear is not that he'll lose his kingdom or lose his life, but that he'll lose God's presence. Psalm 18 is said to be a psalm that David wrote whenever the Lord had delivered him from the hand of all of his enemies and from the hand of Saul. And so when he finally becomes king, and I think king of the United Tribes, because that takes a little while, after David becomes king, he's just king of the southern two tribes for a little while before the northern tribes decide on their own to join themselves to him. And I think he probably wrote this at that point when he's building Jerusalem as his capital, and all 12 tribes recognize him as king. And this is the first thing he says in this song that is about God's deliverance of him, not about his military victories, but about God's military victories that have put him in on the throne. He says, these are the opening words. I agape you, O Yahweh, my strength. I love you. It's so straightforward and simple and honest. How often do we say that to God in our prayers? We thank him for his love. How often do we just say the words to him the way David says the words here? And if this is his stela of victory, his monument that he built, like so many ancient rulers did, to show the world what tough guys they were and what studs they were in winning so many battles. It's not like anything else anybody ever wrote, because David's first words are "I love you" on his monument, and then this is how you saved me, not what I have done. So we have that. Psalm 31, 23, also a psalm by David. David it asks all of us to feel the same way about God. Oh, love the Lord, all you his godly ones. The Lord preserves the faithful and fully recompenses the proud doer. Be strong and let your heart take courage, all you who hope in the Lord. Um, Agape the Lord, agape Yahweh. Everyone who serves Yahweh, who belongs to Yahweh, should feel agape for Yahweh. That's what David has said. Then Psalm 116:1, I wanted us to look at because it's not by David, and yet it uses the word agape for God. Psalm 116, verse 1, I agape Yahweh because he hears. He hears my voice and my supplication, and he's gracious and he's righteous, verse 5. He's compassionate, verse 5. He preserves the simple, verse 6. You know, so it is praising God. It's a hymn of gratitude. That gratitude is expressed as agape love. I agape the Lord because he hears. And then I just wanted us to look just for a second at Psalm 63, even though it doesn't use the word agape and doesn't have the word ahava in it either in the Hebrew Old Testament. But it is a love song. It is in the form of a love song that a man would sing to a woman. Its closest kin in the Old Testament in terms of style is Song of Solomon, particularly chapter 3. It's not like anything else. It is a love song to God, and David has written it to God because he loves God. So let me just read Psalm 63, and then we'll close our study of agape in the Hebrew and the Greek, Old Testament. O God, you are my God. I shall seek you earnestly. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh yearns for you in a dry and weary land where there is no water. Thus I have beheld you in the sanctuary to see your power and your glory, because your loving kindness is better than life. My lips will praise you. I will bless you as long as you live. I will lift up my hands in praise. My soul is satisfied with marrow and fatness. My mouth offers praise with joyful lips. We're just going to stop there and just notice what a brilliant poet David is, his facility with words, the way my soul thirsts, my flesh yearns. He describes his soul as having a physical sensation and his flesh as having an emotional sensation. And he continues that throughout the psalm. It's just an amazing thing that he does. But it's a love song to God. You know, I meditate on you in the watches of the night because you've been my help. You know, I'm laying in bed just thinking about you. Um, it's a love song to God because David felt this strongly about God. And David is singing this song when he's in the wilderness of Judah, when he's fleeing from Saul or Absalom or someone. And yet he's singing a love song to God and saying, I'm satisfied and I love you. Well, Ahav's not in this. Agape is not in this. You know who's not? What else isn't? What other word isn't in this? Yahweh isn't in it. But it's still a love song. It still is full of agape and it's to Yahweh. Um, and it just doesn't use the word, but it expresses what the word means in terms of the way we feel about God. I hope that we will all be challenged to love God the way David expresses his love for God in Psalm 63. Well, we're going to turn to the book of Acts next. And we're going to do a thematic and character study of the book of Acts. We're not going to look at every incident in the book of Acts, but we're going to look at the main characters in the book of Acts, and we're going to talk about quality that they particularly exemplify. And so we'll pick up with that study next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes, 10 good minutes. Who am I kidding with the word?